Hello friends, welcome to the course Exploratory Data Analysis for Data Science with R Software. So you can recall that in the last couple of lectures we have discussed various types of graphics, and then we also discussed how to create them in the R software and their interpretations. And if you can recall that I told you that there are two approaches to create the graphics in the R software. One is that there are some built-in graphics, built-in commands to create different types of graphics in the base software of R. And beside those things, we have certain packages which also creates the same type of graphic or some additional graphics. Among those packages, there is a package ggplot2, which is a good package, and it has a capability of creating different types of these graphics. The same graphics what we have discussed in the past, like as bar diagram, tree map, histogram, pie diagram, etc. They all can also be created in the ggplot2. And beside them, there are many other graphics which are available in ggplot2 packages, and which cannot be actually directly created using the base package of R. So my objective in this lecture and in the next couple of lectures is that I want to show you how you can create the graphics and plots in the ggplot2 package. Well, one thing I would like to explain you that the working in the ggplot2 software is little bit different than what we used to do in the base package. It's not difficult, but it is a little bit different. And so we need to understand that what are the requirements of the ggplot2 package so that I can create a graphic. And we need to understand the interpretation of the command. So in this lecture, basically my objective is that I will try to explain you the basic concepts and basic commands which are used in the ggplot2. And in the next lecture, I will try to take an example with which I will try to explain you all these commands, whatever I am going to discuss in the current lecture. Well, it is possible that when I am trying to explain this concept to you, which are basically in theory without an example in this lecture, then you might have to struggle at some point what is the real meaning of these commands. But for that, I would request you have some patience and try to understand what I am trying to say. And then just after this, try to follow the next lecture also. Once you follow the next lecture and you see through the examples how the ggplot2 packages helped in creating the plots, then if you try to revisit this lecture and try to listen the lecture once again, then you will understand it completely. So with this objective that I will be able to explain you the basic concepts of ggplot2 package in this lecture and an example in the next lecture, let us try to begin this lecture. And before that, I can tell you my objective here is basically to introduce you with this concept that the plots can be created by different using packages. And in the further lectures, once we go into more deeper into the topics, then at many places you will have both these options. Either you want to create the graphics using the ggplot2 package, or you can use them directly over the R console using the base package. And then how do you want to modify the graphics depending on your need and requirement? Whatever you feel is more convenient for you, you can choose it. So let us begin this lecture and try to understand the basics of this ggplot2 package. Right. So now the first question comes over here, that what is this ggplot2? ggplot2 is a package in the R software, just like many other packages we have considered in the last couple of lectures since beginning. So this package is used for creating various types of graphics and plots from the data, and it is a little bit different from other packages in the sense that it uses a conceptual framework which is based on the concept of grammar of graphics. I am not going into that detail, and when you try to create the graphics using the ggplot2 package, then you need at least the data, the mapping and layer. Now, this is the point where sometimes you get confused what are these things, right? So that is what I told you, that please try to listen to this lecture. I will try my best to explain you here what are these things, and then when I take the example, then all the things will become clear, right? So when we try to use the ggplot2 package, then ggplot is the command, ggplot, and this initializes ggplot object, and which can be used to declare the input data in the format of data frame for the graphic, and to specify the set of plotted aesthetics which are intended to be common throughout all subsequent layers unless specifically overridden. So you will see here that the data is given in the data format. Then we use the option of here aesthetics to create some features in the graph, and then we try to create some layers to give more information to the graph which is plotted. Right, so it is used like this. You write the ggplot2, then you have to write here the data, whatever data is given here. Then you have to give the option for the mapping, which is based on the use of aesthetic function AES. Within the parenthesis, you will have to give different options, and then you have to give, say, environment as parent.frame, etc. Right. So in this, what we are trying to do in the data, we are giving the default data set which is used for plotting the graph. Then in the option of here mapping, there is a default list of aesthetic mapping to use for plot, that how the graph will look like. These are the aesthetics of the plot, and if they are not specified, then they must be supplied in each layer which are added to the plot. Then the environment, this is used prior to tidy evaluation, right? And beside those things, there is an important aspect that this ggplot function is used to construct the initial plot object, and after that it is usually followed by writing a plus sign like this one to add components to the plot, right? You will write the ggplot function, then plus something and so on, and then gradually you can add different features to the graphic and the plot. So basically there are three common patterns which are used to invoke the ggplot function. The first one is if all layers use the same data and the same set of aesthetics, then we try to use the command as ggplot, then within parenthesis data, which is in the format of a data frame. Then mapping is giving like the function by using the function AES, and within parentheses some x, y and other aesthetic parameters are given. So this is the way we recommend to use the ggplot function. And this method can also be used when adding a layer using data from another data frame, right? The second point is if no aesthetics are defined upfront, right? That means you don't define how the graph should look like, and the default data frame is used to plot the graphics. Then we simply use here ggplot, and inside the parenthesis data is equal to df, which is the data frame, right? And this option is useful when one data frame is used predominantly for the plot, but the aesthetics vary from one layer to another layer. The third point is that this command ggplot actually is useful when multiple data frames are used. For example, if you are using a complex graphic, right, where there are multiple data frames and they are producing different types of layers, then in that cases the use of ggplot function initializes a skeleton of a ggplot object, which is fleshed out as the layers are added to it. And in this case, the options like data is equal to and mapping is equal to, they are the specification in the arguments which are optional, right? And now there are certain points which we have to keep in mind, that how are we going to use the this ggplot2 packages. So this ggplot2 uses the data which are preferably in a data frame structure, and data frame is created in such a way so the rows are observations and the columns are variable, right? And then in case if I am using suppose data something like XYZ, right, in the format of a data frame, then we give the command here ggplot inside parenthesis data is equal to XYZ, right? And the second aspect is about mapping. Actually, mapping is a set of instruction on how parts of the data are mapped onto aesthetic attributes of the geometric object. That means if you want to create the graphic with a certain geometric aspect, then whatsoever geometric aspects or geometric objects you want to use, they are given through the concept of mapping. And mapping is done using the function AES, which is about aesthetics. So in case if I say that you have a data set in the format of data frame as say XYZ, and then in the data set there is data which has to be plotted on X and Y axis, and suppose this data is specified as X data and Y data respectively, then it is given in the ggplot function like as this: ggplot data is equal to XYZ, and mapping is now aesthetic AES, and inside the parenthesis X equal to X data and Y equal to Y data. So this is how from the data frame the data which has to be plotted on X and Y axis is given here, because you can see that data frame may have different columns, but it depends on you that which of the data set you want to plot, right? Then we have the concept of here layers. So the layers actually take the map data and display to represent it in a way which is easily understandable. And this will add different types of features to the graphics so that they are able to convey the hidden information in a much better way which is easy to understand. So a layer is constructed by using the function like GEOM underscore and STAT underscore. Right. One thing I can explain you here, that here I am writing here is star. So star means you will see here that something is to be added here depending on the requirement, but these functions will start with the GEOM underscore and STAT underscore. So these function actually determine the three aspects of the layer: geometry, statistical transformation and position adjustment. So the geometry determines how data are displayed. For example, they are displayed as points, lines, rectangles or something else. The statistical transformation computes new variable from the data to be displayed. And then the position adjustment primarily determines where a piece of data is displayed, the location. Right. There are some other aspects which are associated with the ggplot2 function. For example, this is about scales, for example. Scales are important because they translate the information shown on the graph back to the data so that they can have a proper interpretation and understanding, right? So this will sort of the information flowing in the reverse way, that from the graphic what data is trying to tell us, that will be explained by, or that will be helped by the scales concept. Then we have here the facets. The facets are used to separate the small multiple or the different subsets of the data based on one or more variable. And this will help us that we can then decide how to display the pattern and trends within the subsets of the data. Then the concept of coordinates is used to display a plot with a fixed aspect ratio. So this will ensure that one unit has the same length in both the x and y corrections. And then there is another aspect of theme. The theme actually controls the visual and the feel of the plot. Like for example, you can customize the range, you can change the location of the lesions, you can change the background color of the plot, etc. So this all features, they are controlled by the theme. And then in the ggplot2 function, it is possible to combine different layers to build a customized plot of the data set. Right. So this is a very brief introduction about the ggplot2, but it is purely on the theory. And as I said in the beginning, that I have explained you these terminologies, but several of these terminologies might be completely new for you, and you may not exactly have followed what I am trying to say and what does this mean when we try to use it. But as I said, you need not to worry for these things. In the next lecture, I will take an example and I will use all these concepts one by one in steps. So that will help you in understanding what are these concepts like as geometry, aesthetic, etc., theme, that how they are going to help us in the creation of the graph. So you try to read it from the books about this ggplot2 function, go to the help menu of the ggplot2 function, and then try to see what information they are trying to give you. And in the next lecture, I will show you an example where I will show you how you can create a graphic using the ggplot2 function. Till then, goodbye.